Hello, and welcome back to episode 20 of the Delve podcast. I'm Allie McGarrell. I'm a staff therapist here at Delve Psychotherapy of Chicago.
And I'm Adam Fomanaya. I'm the executive and clinical director at Delve Psychotherapy of Chicago. We're adding last names, are we?
Oh, have I not been?
I don't think we have been.
Episode 20. Now I'm adding my last name.
We're gonna break the form. We're gonna break all of previous rules.
We're getting less personable. We're getting more formal. No.
You will call me doctor and nothing else. Please don't, actually.
Oh my goodness. Well, I hope all you listeners have been enjoying the podcast. If you have, please help us spread the word. We're really relying on word of mouth for this podcast. We're not looking for fame with this podcast. We're not planning to run ads. So it's really about trying to add value to as many people's lives as possible. So if you find our podcast of value, please share it with at least one other person. It would be really helpful.
And hey, just like a personal thing, I would love if we keep sending it overseas. I kind of love maps and geography and international stuff. So like, get me a listener in Sweden. Does anybody know anybody in Sweden? Like, let's get one in Sweden. I'll take a Kenya. I've been to Kenya before. It's awesome.
Let's hit every country on the map. Let's do it.
There we are. North Korea. Here we come.
Oh, God. But yes, as always, thank you so much for listening. And if you're interested in our services, we offer individual, couples, group, and family therapy. So reach out to us for a free consultation at delvepsych.com. That's DELVEPSYCH.com. We also have been posting really great blog posts on our Substack. That's at delvepsych.substack.com.
Yeah, episode 20. This is so exciting.
Yeah, it's crazy, but it's been a really fun ride with you so far, Adam.
Yeah, I agree. And I like round numbers. So this is a nice little moment of signifying a nice round number.
Yes, I agree.
And then we get to celebrate again in 5 episodes because that'll be a quarter century.
There we go. Well, something that we were talking about before recording today's podcast is there's something super integral to, I think, how we approach working with clients, which is the idea of goals, needs, and values. And you might have heard us reference this before in previous episodes, but we never really have done a deep dive on goals, needs, and values. And I think that's actually really super important. We also have a Substack post from a while ago, back in May, that Adam wrote on this very topic. What was the title of it? How to Live a Contented Life? Yes, How to Live a Contented Life. That also talks about this very subject. So I say let's get into it because I think this will be very helpful for people.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. And to be honest with you, I don't remember the entire history of the development of this. I know that I've been working on it as a framework for a while. I know that I've borrowed and stolen from other people because there's no original thought in anything anywhere at all. I just don't remember the actual origins of all of these pieces overall. Some of it I can imagine comes from emotions-focused therapy and Les Greenberg stuff, but I haven't been able to find and identify where some of those original thoughts came from. I just know that I was very into Les Greenberg around the time when a lot of these things came forward, and it's fairly consistent with the way that he and others and his contemporaries talk about things. So I know that parts of it also connect to ACT, which is acceptance and commitment therapy, and specifically the values-driven action parts of it. I think this plays pretty well with ACT-oriented therapists, though there are some differences. And then there's some pieces of it that are adjacent to things like SMART goals, which is often used, especially in like substance use treatment, but I mean more broadly, just general goal development. And what is the name of that theory? It's like goal setting theory or something very plain like that. So this has different pieces to it. But when I'm talking about goals, needs, and values in this particular framework from the Delve model, we have very particular definitions for what each of these mean. So you can't just go with a lay definition or a definition from another orientation for this particular approach using these particular factors. We're talking about something very particular from this particular framework. So it's internally consistent, but the language is entirely dependent on operating from this framework. And let's see how many more times I can say particular.
I agree. When I was first introduced to this framework in didactics, yes, I think what it reminded me most similarly to was ACT, the idea of like, no matter how you feel, what you're feeling, connecting back to values driven actions and making that like the most important thing, and committing to that in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. So I will add that there's a few things here. So I would argue that in general, if we pursue things that we clearly identify as our goals, our needs, and our values, if we generally are pursuing those things, not achieving them, but pursuing them on a daily basis as best we can, that overall we're going to feel a greater sense of contentment. That is a sense of contentment while we are experiencing suffering and loss and hardship, strain, burnout, etc. It's not promising you that you will be happy at all moments in time, and I even still have some qualms with the idea of contentment, but it's going to feel more purpose-driven overall, which is the point, to be purpose-driven. I contrast our goals, our needs, and our values with our wants, our emotional reactions, and our proclivities or general, reflexive habits, if you will. Though I also have a blog post on the fact that I don't think habits exist in the way that we think about them typically.
Very interesting. Definitely check that one out. Yeah, I like that you preface with like, this doesn't mean that if you pursue your goals, needs, and values, you will live a life that is stress-free and not without suffering and without I don't know, just the burdens of life. And it brings me back. I know I've said this quote a million times, but I think it really relates to goals, needs, and values in this way. I think, yes, this is a quote by Friedrich Nietzsche. Is that how you say his last name?
I think so, yeah.
He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how. I always go back to that quote because I think it's not saying that you won't suffer or things won't be hard or you won't be upset. It's not promising that you'll be happy all of the time or even content all of the time, but that because you are pursuing something in life that is meaningful to you, that you connect to, that fills you with purpose, those things that are more uncomfortable in life, the suffering, the stress, you can bear it a little bit more because you are connecting to your values in your life. So I don't know. I think that quote definitely like relates a lot to what we're saying here with goals, needs, and values.
I completely agree. I think it's the embodiment of it. And at the end of the day, if you concede, and I ask you to concede, if you concede that a life must contain some degree of suffering and loss, that there is no true utopia, then the question is, how do you want to live while you are suffering, not how do you want to live so that you don't suffer? This is one of the most common mistakes that I find in clients is if I say, maybe they come to me and they say, I feel depressed. I say, okay, how do you want to feel depressed? The answer is, well, I don't want to feel depressed. I don't want to feel depressed either, but sometimes we do. So
Right.
Now that we do, given that current context, we sort of have to accept the baseline premise. And a lot of the suffering that we end up creating for ourselves is in trying to reject the baseline premise. So I'm socially anxious. Well, I don't want to be socially anxious. Yeah, but you are. So as you begin to engage socially, you have to have that anxiety and be social, not get rid of that anxiety and then be social. Same thing with romantic relationships. If you've got difficulties with romantic attachments in some way, you don't fix your romantic attachments and then start a relationship. They happen in a relationship, and you are going to feel them as you're going. So you must have it and interact with it as you are self-healing.
Right. You work through it like in vivo with your partner in real time. Like I something that has stuck out to me that you mentioned in a dating group was like, you know, a lot of people were like, well, I need to be healed and I need to work on myself and be completely, fully like healed and fixed and ready to be in a relationship before I start a relationship. It's like, well, how can you do that without actually working through it with the partner? You can't just like sit there and like meditate and be like, I will be less anxiously attached with, you know, like,
Yeah. I mean, even somebody with something like a spider phobia, right? If
yeah,
there's no spider in the room and you haven't been thinking about spiders, how big of an impact is spider phobia having on your life? But then I ask you, like, hey, think about a spider. That's already going to activate you a little bit.
right.
And then if I say there is a spider right there, watch how you start to struggle to function, right?
Yeah.
And if you want to work through spider phobia, you got to do it with spiders in the room.
Yeah. You have to actually face the spider.
Exactly. Which is the same for social anxiety, and it's the same for romantic attachments. Actually, it's one of my biggest arguments. It's a little bit slick, if you will, but usually somebody with social anxiety, we want to get them into group therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And their biggest argument is like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm afraid of people. You want to put me around people? Exactly.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. How
I'm
else
gonna
are you
get
supposed to work through this?
I'm
Like,
gonna get overwhelmed. I'm gonna shut down. I was like, yeah, that's the point.
yeah. And then
Also,
we
we're
work
gonna be
through
there
it.
to it will help you.
Yeah. And then you can work through it in a controlled, supportive environment. Um, I think we should more explicitly define what we mean by each of these things: goals, needs, and values.
I agree. So let's start with goals, which I think is one of the most difficult to define.
Hmm.
When I say, well, what are your broad goals in life? A client will often say something along the lines of, oh, I want to go to the gym 10 times this week. Or 10 times this month. And I say, well, what about next month? Like, what happens to that goal after you're done going to the gym 10 times? Do you just never want to go to the gym again? Is gym going then completely gone from your life? A good goal is discrete. It happens once and you kind of check it off the list. I had a friend call this projects. It's a project that I'm working on, and it's got a discrete ending to it. It will be clear, and it's got an objective ending to it. It will be clear to all involved when it has happened. I want to get married. Well, people are at the wedding and they can see it happen. I want to have a child. Okay, well, people will see the child appear. I want to get a diploma. Well, you hang it on the wall and you can see it. There's no debate about whether or not it has happened versus I want to get a job that leaves me feeling more contented. Well, one, I can't promise you that. Two, I can't see whether or not you're contented. And three, that might change. So you might have a job where you're contented and then lose the job that you felt contented in, or something of that nature. So none of those are like really good goals. A good goal is going to be specific, measurable, and discrete. This is where I differ from SMART goals. SMART goals ask to be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound.
Yeah.
Time bound, I've got some okayness with, although I mean, not necessarily. I want to write a book. I could work on that my entire life. And that's fine. And I could still be 95 and be like, yeah, but I want to write that book. That's fine. As long as that's still the thing that you are trying to achieve in your life, that's still the
Hmm.
project, then I don't think the time boundedness matters. I also don't think the achievableness matters. Think about the really young athletic high school kid that's like, I want to go pro. And is it achievable? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it's rather lofty and not likely. But if you're quite sure that you want to orient a good bit of your life toward that thing that may or may not be achievable, have at it, I say. Relevance probably important. I mean, I don't know why we would have goals that aren't relevant. So thank you for including that in your thing. SMART goals. I think sometimes
Yeah.
relevant feels to me like it might just be a way of avoiding having them become SMAT goals. So I think I'll go with like SMER goals, specific, measurable, relevant, obviously, but discrete. I know for sure when it has or has not happened.
Right. Because I think some people will make the mistake of being like, okay, what are my goals for therapy? I want to be like better in relationships. I want to be better in friendships. It's like, okay, well, what does that mean? What does that look like? And how do you know you're done with that? How do you know that you've achieved that? You don't. You can be working on that for all time and not having any sense of like how to measure whether you've achieved that goal. So yes, it has to be something where you do it once and you know it's done.
And again, specifically from this specific framework, right? If a client comes in and says, I want to be better in relationships, that's my goal, that's a perfectly reasonable thing to say from a lay perspective, just using lay speak. It's just when we're operating from this specific particular framework, we're talking in a specific and particular way. So for the purposes of this exercise, these kinds of goals are SMER plus discrete.
It's not as like doesn't roll off the tongue as much as SMART goals, but I'm still following you, Adam.
Yeah. I think they're just trying to avoid SMAT.
Because that doesn't sound very appealing. Okay, great. So those are our goals. Needs.
So I think needs are generally the things that we require from the universe or the people around us that if we do not have them, we're going to begin to psychologically or maybe even physically suffer a little bit. I actually find these pretty hard to identify, but I also break them into 3 categories. So there are universal needs. I need things along the lines of like autonomy, connection, belonging, etc. Those are like every human on the planet needs those. I also need, by and large, a job or financial security or something of that nature. Every human on the planet needs those. So everybody has those sort of universal psychological needs by and large.
Mhm.
And then there's kind of this different category of personal needs, which involves how do I need this in a way that is different than others? So we all have a need for financial security, but if your parents happened to be particularly focused on maybe wealth and finances, and that just becomes like this really elevated thing in your life, then maybe the way that you need financial security, I must have a plan for retirement. Well, everybody needs a plan for retirement. Yeah, but I need it in a way that is like, I need us to be focused on this as a central pillar of our lives and our relationship because it is so important to me. It got drilled into my head from my dad and so on and so forth. You can imagine how it could kind of get elevated for an individual as a more important thing than, the background universal need that other people might have. And that's what we really want to focus on here, are the personal needs. How does this individual need these things in a way that is different than what other people need? That's personal needs.
Yeah. And sometimes in working with clients, we kind of struggle between putting something in the need category versus a value category. But how I try to look at it is kind of what you described. Like if this need isn't pursued or tended to, I will physically like feel a difference. Like I will like my mental health might decline a little bit, my physical health might decline a little bit, emotionally I might feel worse. Like I will feel a difference in like my overall well-being. That's kind of how I looked at how to differentiate the two.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful. And I also think in a lot of cases, there's a complementary value to go with the complementary need. So it's not against the rules to kind of put it in both categories. And we also don't have to be perfect about these things as long as we're close. But I do think specificity helps. I think we can demonstrate this pretty well with the 3rd category of need, which is transient needs. I think of these as those like the Sims video game slider needs, where if you don't take care of this person's bathroom need, they're going to pee on the kitchen floor. Or if you don't take care of this person's sleep need, they'll be mid-conversation with somebody and just like fall asleep in the living room or in the yard. The Sims kind of picture of this is a really good one, where if you don't attend to your needs, if you don't make sure that you have them for yourself, you're going to fall asleep in the yard. Or it'll burst out of you in some way.
Oh my gosh, that just like brought me back. I was definitely a Sims person back in the day. I loved The Sims. Yes, and like a way to kind of illustrate how like some needs maybe for others and for some people and not for others is like I work with a lot of artists, and for some artists, like a need for like creation, being creative, like that for them is actually a need because they physically feel a difference in them if they are not creating. And it's also obviously a value of theirs, but like it's even deeper than that. It's a need. Whereas for other people who maybe aren't as artistically inclined, like, yeah, maybe they like find value in like the arts or being creative, but it's not like they feel deplete without it.
Absolutely. I think that's exactly it.
Yeah.
Something will happen to you if this is not pursued, and you will feel it. It will burst out of you.
Yeah.
So then values. I think of values in two broad categories. One are the kind of moralistic, maybe ethics, if you will. So I have a value for loyalty or a value for honesty and transparency. Those are the ways that a layperson might talk about values. But there's also values respective to the ways that we engage our life, the way that we mean to live our life, the things that we mean to be doing on a regular basis. This is where the gym goes. I value exercise. And if I value exercise, I want us to understand that the way that that manifests may be very different at different times in life. So people might be driven to say, I value pull-ups. What if you lose an arm? I mean, maybe you do one arm pull-ups. Maybe you lose both arms. I'm sorry to be macabre about it, but like, do you no longer value exercise? Wouldn't that value of exercise shift to something else slightly differently? It's also part of the reason why I don't want these to ever include a name. So let's say you have a need for romantic attachment, which we all do. That's probably it's a damn near universal need.
Yeah.
Don't put, Taylor's name on that list and say, oh, I have a romantic attachment need respective to Taylor. What happens if Taylor gets hit by a bus? Does that need just go away? Like, you still have the need regardless, and it'll map onto something else later. One more example here. My classic example of the gym one, and why I think it should be thought of as a value instead of a goal, is Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So let's say Ruth Bader Ginsburg, when she's in her 30s, really valued marathon running or something of that nature. When she's 90, she probably can't run marathons anymore, but we've got tons of videos of her like sitting in a chair and boxing because that's what she can do. The way that you pursue the value changes over time. So you define it broadly. I value exercise. I value fitness. I value physical health. How that manifests in any given moment will change.
Yeah. So keeping it, whereas with goals, we were very specific, like values can be a little bit more open and flexible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And defined broadly.
Could it also be, I'd imagine maybe someone who is an avid runner, maybe they exercise almost every day. Could being active and fitness be put under like for that person needs because they feel a certain type of way if they're not?
Well, partly the way that I define it is, what do I actually need from others or from the world around me? I need things like time and space. And maybe there's specific kinds of support that I need. Perhaps if I'm running, let's take like a long distance cyclist, for instance, and they want to start doing, I don't know, 100-mile rides or something like that,
Mhm.
they're probably going to need somebody to bring them a suitcase or do the drive with them or something of that nature. So that could be a way that that need manifests. Or a personal need of mine is I do need time for my personal projects and hobbies. I just need you to give me space and time and quiet so that I can work on those things.
Gotcha.
If I don't have the space and time and quiet, then I'm like, I will feel it and I will start to struggle. But I do also value creativity and creation in those ways. So it kind of goes in both. It's just a slightly different thing.
I see. I see.
And what I might ask for or what I might choose or what I might do is going to be different depending on which of those things is happening. If I don't have the long distance cycling support that I need, I gotta go make a new friend or join a bike club. If
Mm.
I am struggling to connect with my own engagement of my own passion of cycling, but the supports are there, well, that's an internal problem, and I need to kind of interact with myself and make a different choice for myself. But I've got the supports in place.
Yeah. So that's like more connecting with the value of it. Okay.
Exactly.
I see. I totally see. Um, so that's a more specific definition of what we're talking about when we say goals, needs, and values. So just quickly, what are the things that like we want to avoid? And it's not about, you say, our wants, our proclivities, and our
Yep.
emotional reactions.
Yeah, exactly. If we start pursuing wants, you are living a intensely hedonistic lifestyle. I want jelly donuts is my classic example.
Yeah.
But that's not going to help me live a contented life overall. Getting that might feel good temporarily, but it's not going to help me overall. And defining what is a want versus what is a need is a matter of personal kind of reflection on some level. But I would ask the central question to be, if you don't have this, what happens to you? In the case of most wants, it's like, man, I'm a little bummed. Maybe I'm even craving. Maybe I'm desiring. Maybe I'm thirsting. But that's very different than like, no, I'm kind of like at a deep fundamental level, respective to who I am as a person. I'm a little fucked if I don't have this. That's the difference, and it's got something of a resonance difference to it. Proclivities are annoying as hell. Clients will come in and they'll constantly say, well, what I tend to do is fill in the blank thing. And I'm like, I don't care what you tend to do. What are we doing now? What do we want to do now? It doesn't matter what you have been doing. It matters what you will do. Or they'll often use phrasings like, I feel like I'm just going to blah, 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 blah thing. And it's like, well, you're an active agent with fingers and a mouth and choices. So you aren't just going to fill in the blank thing. You have been doing fill in the blank thing. And now you are presented with an option to decide whether or not you're going to continue that. So if we just do what we've been doing, we're going to keep getting what we've been getting. And we're talking about it because there's a problem with it on some level. And you've defined that problem. You brought it up to me. You told me this problem.
Right. What do you mean to do? What do you intend to do? I think when we just live our life in accordance with our proclivities, that's how we get to like, okay, it's been 10 years and we've just sort of been going through the motions without any real like direction or path in our life. And we kind of look back and we're like, what have I been doing? I haven't been working towards anything. I haven't been like doing anything meaningful. I've just been existing. Like what, I feel like that's sort of the reflection when we're just living towards our proclivities.
Absolutely. And then emotional reactions are, of course, whatever kind of burps out of us in a moment that we start to feel something big.
Mhm.
Emotional reactions are almost always about the emotion themselves. Usually you're trying to cling to an emotion that you like, a pleasant emotion that you like, or you're trying to run from an unpleasant emotion, one that you don't like.
Right.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. So when you talk about goals, needs, and values, it's always in the way of the pursuit of goals, needs, and values, not in the attainment of. Why is that?
I like to say the day that I achieve a goal should be a sad day, because I don't get to work on my thing anymore. I liked that thing. That was a part of my life for a while, and I worked on it for a long time, and now I don't have it anymore because it's done. So with respect to goals, I often feel a sense of sadness when I lose one, because it's a means of living your life rather than checking off boxes within your life. And I think if we are too outcomes focused, then we're living our life for mere fleeting moments that are going to fade very quickly. Take a PhD program, for instance, that can last somewhere between 4 and 10 years. If you live an outcomes driven life, you're going to be happy for a day, for a couple of days, when graduation happens, when you get the diploma, and perhaps you have some lifestyle easing after that. But there's 4 years or more that are your actual life that you are actually living. And the achievement at the end of it is not there yet. You do not have it yet. So it is no guide for how to actually live your life right now. And you'd say, well, yes, it is. What I want to do is I want to get that PhD. So I should live my life in the direction of getting that PhD. Yes, that's my point. That is the argument, is pursue it. Don't get it, or don't focus on the getting of it. Because what you could do is end up kind of pushing off the actual living of life in the mental headspace that is too focused on just the achievement. When I get this, then I'll be happy. Which abdicates your responsibility to actually live the life that you have while you are pursuing.
Absolutely. Yeah. It reminds me, like, the day I graduated with my master's, of course, like that day I was really happy and I felt a sense of relief and a sense of accomplishment. And then the next day it was Thursday, and what now? What's next?
Keep living your life.
Right.
Pick new goals and keep going.
Right. So in that sense, it's like the moment of the achievement is pretty short and fleeting. And so if you say to yourself, okay, I'll be happy when, I get my master's, it's like, of course I'm happy about it, but like it only lasts for so long.
I could be happy about it, but not necessarily happy as a whole person because of it.
Right. Another way that you've described this is like, when we watch movies and like the hero character is on some type of journey to achieve some sort of thing or discover some sort of amulet or whatever it is, that part when they actually achieve the thing, find the golden amulet or whatever it is, like that's a small 5 minutes of the film towards the end. Like most of the movie is the journey. That's the interesting part of the movie.
Yeah, imagine the Lord of the Rings where we're like, we must destroy this ring, and then they cut to, we threw it in the thing. It's gone now. That's the movie. 9 hours cut out, saved a lot of people a lot of time. I think we're talking about it less.
Yeah, the whole movie's gone without the pursuit of the thing.
And that's your life.
That's your life. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any other aspect of this idea of goals, needs, and values that you think is important to discuss?
Where do emotions fit in? Well, I said don't react to them, but they're happening this whole time. So what the hell is their purpose?
Mm-hmm. Some days we're going to feel depressed. We're not going to feel our best selves. We may not feel like doing the things that we know ultimately will lead us towards our goals, needs, and values. But if these things are important to us, then despite what we're feeling, we must continue to live our life in accordance with our goals, needs, and values. So for instance, I think you've told this metaphor on the podcast before, but it's like, I love my grandma. She's a really important part of my life. I really value having a relationship with my grandma. And how does the story go? I live on the mainland. She lives on an island.
Hmm.
And the only way to get to Granny is over this bridge. And I have an intense fear of bridges, walking over this bridge. It's really high, it's really scary. I feel like I'm gonna fall. I'm feeling all sorts of uncomfy, fearful emotions. Also, Granny's not good at FaceTime. That's not gonna work. And phone call isn't the same. So what am I gonna do?
Exactly.
If Granny's really important to me and fostering that relationship with my grandma is a value of mine, then I'm going to go over that bridge despite how I'm feeling.
But I don't want to feel bad, but I don't want to be scared. Why would I want to? I want to get away from these emotions. Shouldn't I just get away from? I shouldn't have to feel bad. Live, laugh, love.
You could avoid the bridge, but then you're putting in jeopardy the relationship with your grandma that you value so much. Like that part that's so important to you is suffering. So yeah, sure, you can avoid the bridge all day long just to feel like the comfy, safe emotions and not have to face it. But then you're not seeing grandma. And I thought grandma was important to you.
You got to make a choice. Big feelings will signify the need to make a big choice. And part of what I find really valuable about the goals, needs, values exercise, when we take it really seriously, this is an articulation of the way that we mean to live our life, which means that if we are actually living our life relative to our sense of purpose, the best articulation we have for our broad sense of purpose in our life, then you're either going to be feeling good, cohesive, contented overall, or you're going to be feeling off in some way. When you're feeling good, cohesive, contented, chances are you're operating in a way that's pretty consistent with your stated purpose. You're operating in a way that's consistent with your goals, your needs, and your values. Nothing to analyze here. Keep going. You're feeling good. You're vibing with your purpose. You're probably doing fine, most likely. Especially if you're sustaining it. If it's a momentary thing after an outcome, that's different. But if you're sustaining it for any period of time, you're probably living in accordance with your stated sense of purpose. So what does it feel like when you're not? That's when it's going to bust out of you, usually in the form of unpleasant emotions, which is the signifier that you're off your game. It's not my game. It's not the game. It's your game. You've articulated it. These are your goals, your needs, your values, your stated sense of purpose, your plan for the way that you mean to live your life. So when you start feeling bad, go back to the list, because chances are you're going to find stuff on there that you've been missing lately. I love to ask two questions in particular. What have you been paying a lot of attention to lately? What have you not been paying a lot of attention to lately?
Yeah. And oftentimes I feel like if someone's feeling off, that I would imagine one of the things that they're not paying attention to is something that's actually really important to them, one of their big goals, needs, and values.
Yeah. So I've been paying so much attention to making sure that the nursery is ready for the kiddo, my values around family and, having a child as a goal, and just making sure that I've got all the things that I really need to make sure that my life is just set up correctly for this kiddo and my wife is happy and she's safe and comfortable and all of that. It's like, but simultaneously you have a social need to connect with your friends who you haven't seen in 8 weeks at this point. So when this goes, some of my favorite moments here are when I get somebody to really engage this and I say, what have you not been paying attention to lately? Odd things will bust out of them, things that I don't even know about them, but it'll just come out of them. It's like, I got to take a trip to North Carolina. You're like, I didn't even know that this was in your past. Where the hell did that come from? What's that about? You say, well, you see, I got this buddy of mine. I haven't seen him in a while, but I love him to bits. And he's been asking me to come down. And I've been like, nah, I got to get the house ready for the kid. I think I just need like a weekend to go see to go see my buddy. Like, I didn't even know he existed. But what will happen to you internally, my thesis here, is when people say something like, oh, I'm depressed or I'm burnt out or I'm anxious or whatever else, it is our own actions that end up being inconsistent with our stated purpose that will manifest as depression. It is your depression screaming at you, hey, you're forgetting something here. It is your anxiety screaming at you, hey, you're forgetting something here that's really important to who you are and how you mean to live your life. That's partly why I don't want to get diagnostic about a person. I think it is a manifestation of their agita, their emotionality is manifesting. Sorry, it is. Let me state this a little bit differently.
Yeah. Timestamp is 42, 48.
It's partly why I don't want to be diagnostic about a person in these. Sorry, my brother texted me and I'm distracted.
No, it's okay.
Mhm.
It's okay. Take a minute.
Yeah, get my thoughts together. It's also why I don't want to be diagnostic about a person having a particular mental illness per se. I think it is what the need itself, the unmet kind of pursuit of purpose, is manifesting as psychological distress that shows up in particular ways for this particular person in this particular moment, given their context and given their recent choices. It's going to show up like as depression, as a way of speaking to the person, saying, we're missing something important about how you mean to live your life. And that just looks like depression in the moment. So when you have the feelings, process them, all of the stuff that we have about emotions focused therapy, process the emotions, work through them, connect with them, build around them, create with them, share them, etc. All of that stuff. And then make a choice. Make intentional decisions about how to live your life, how to pursue your goals, your needs, and your values right here and right now.
Yeah. No, it just, wow, that I feel like that was really eye-opening what you stated, because I think if someone is behaving in a way that is opposite of their goals, their needs, and their values, that creates a lot of dissonance. And dissonance is very uncomfortable. And I can imagine that that sort of dissonance can create feelings of anxiety, feelings of depression. For instance, if one of my values is honesty, um, and I've been engaging in an affair the past few months, I'd imagine that would create some anxiety, maybe some depression. I'd feel badly about myself. That would really screw up my sense of self and identity and all these things, because yeah, I'm living in a way that's dissonant from my values, and how I mean to live my life. So yeah, that's what everything that you said, that's what that made me think of.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes I think it's obvious like that, where it's like I'm clearly off with respect to the thing that I said is important to me.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just a drift overall, as in like, so I really value playing golf with my buddy. I don't, but I really value playing golf with my buddies on the weekend. But this weekend, I decided I was gonna go check in on my dad and see how he's doing. And then the next weekend, my wife wanted something, so I want to check in with what she's doing and what she's needing. And then the next weekend, I just got caught up in a house project, and each of those individual choices as a means of like you're allowed to sacrifice this connection with your friends, doing the thing that you tend to do. But perhaps that last weekend, the fourth weekend, it starts to just like get at you. And it might even manifest in adjacent ways where somebody says something like, hey, can we go clean out the gutters this weekend? And you're like, I need to see my friends. I haven't seen Pete in 2 weeks. And you're like, why are you snapping at me?
Right.
Again, the snap is bursting out of you. Monitor the way that you talk to the important people in your life. Talk to the people that you love, like you love them. But nevertheless, if we're trying to understand, if we're looking for explanatory power, the explanatory power is in understanding that that need is going to burst out of you. You are the person that starts to defend their time with their friends needs that time with their friends because they've been lacking it. And if they don't get it, they're going to be no different than that sim that falls asleep in the yard.
Mm.
It's going to come out of you somehow. You cannot control it.
Yeah. Ugh.
One more bit here.
Yeah.
These can and will change.
Mhm.
If you start looking at your goals, needs, values list and you're like, I don't know if that applies anymore, you are allowed to change it. And you're also allowed to be uncertain about it. Let's say, I don't know what my goals are. I don't know what my needs are. I don't know what my values are, whatever it is in this particular moment. I ask you to please write stuff down and then try to live in accordance with that. The feelings will help you learn. So you try for 2 weeks. You say like, I think I really value independent creation time. And so you go and try to live your life that way. And you spend 2-3 creating sessions and see how you feel. If it feels really good, yeah, you were right. Your internal constitution is telling you, yes, that's correct. But maybe you try to do it and you're like, there's something missing here. It still doesn't feel right. Maybe that wasn't the thing. And
Right.
maybe it's slightly different than that. And use your brain and try some different stuff. Trial and error can be really helpful for this. And then things do drift. Maybe I don't need that anymore in the way that I thought I did.
Yeah. I think clients feel a lot of pressure for this list to be like perfect the first go round. And I'll give yourself permission for it not to be. Try things out. Like this is a breathing, active list that can change.
And will change throughout your entire lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope everyone listening can understand why here at Delve we advocate so much for this idea of goals, needs, and values and why we think it's so important. And I hope this was helpful. All right. New quote. Interesting. Okay. Nice guys finish last because they let everyone else go first. Adam, are you blaming the nice guys?
Yes, very much so. And also, I apologize that it's gendered. I didn't make up the phrasing, the first part of the phrasing. But yeah, I'm blaming the nice guys.
Why are you blaming the nice guys?
At the end of the day, psychology is an internal experience. It is an internal pursuit. Even your relationships live in your head. Even your senses of purpose and hope are a here and the now thing that live in your head. The social context around you lives in your head. All of this lives in your head, and it is you that makes choices. And I think we have to pursue psychology as an individual experience and as an individual pursuit. Yes, there are external stimuli, but they just get filtered into a head. And that head is then deciding, oh, no, go ahead. You go, please. After you. We have to go back to personal responsibility. If we need something from the world, do not wait for it to give it to you. Go get it. And I think this is one of the things that the nice guys struggle with, is they're making sure that everybody else's needs are met. And then eventually they'll often stand around saying like, but why doesn't anybody do that for me? Because they're busy taking care of themselves, and you should too. It sucks, and I wish we were all selfless all the time. But 2 things. One, you have to be primarily responsible for your own happiness first. And 2, there probably are people being really nice to you, and we're just missing it because we're not focused on it. And we're over-focused on how we're going to give to others and self-sacrifice for others instead of noticing how people are caretaking for us, just maybe not in the ways that we would prefer.
So instead of sitting and whining about how the universe isn't giving us what we want, or other people aren't helping us out, giving us a handout, like how we do for other people, and how that's so unfair and unjust, do something about it.
Do something. Take care of yourself. If you don't want to finish last, you have to be a little selfless. Excuse me. You have to be a little selfish. But that is not incompatible with kindness. It's not incompatible with compassion or empathy or care or support. But take care of thyself first and then help others.
Yeah, put your mask on first before the person sitting next to you.
Yeah.
All right. I've really enjoyed this episode of the podcast, our 20th episode.
Woohoo!
As always, reach out to us at delvepsych.com. for a free consultation. That's DELVEPSYCH.com. And check out our Substack if you found this episode interesting and you want to learn more. The article is titled How to Live a Contented Life. Adam wrote it back in May of this year, 2025. So check that out to delve into this topic even further. And we'll see you all next week.
Thank you so much, Allie. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you.